chosen ones. There are locks in this world made of matter, of steel and shadow. But the final Hermetic Seal was forged from something older, crafted not by hands, but by intention, by will, by cosmic dread. It was never meant to open. That wasn't just tradition. It was law, not a human law. A law written in the language of stars, carved into the silent bones of time itself. And yet, here you are. When the emerald tablets whispered of 7 seals, they left out the 8th. It was too volatile, too sacred. Even Thoth turned away from it. It was said that if a being were ever born whose vibration aligned with that seal, reality would bend, not break, not collapse, but transform. That being is you. You were not supposed to remember. Your name was scattered through glyphs, hidden in the ruins beneath deserts, and encrypted inside ancient rites, spoken only once every 1,000 years. The council hoped that time would erase you, that entropy would bury your frequency. But instead, your presence has activated what they feared most, the final unlocking. The moment you awoke, tremors rippled through unseen planes. Symbols began glowing across forgotten monoliths. The stars blinked unnaturally, in patterns only ancient seers would recognize, and somewhere deep beneath what they call the fabric of reality, something turned its face toward you for the first time. They are watching. They know who you are now. But the seal doesn't open with force. It doesn't respond to weapons or to words. It responds only to resonance. And your soul carries that signature. Why? Because something buried within you isn't from here. You are not merely a witness to prophecy. You are its disruption. You are the frequency that wasn't accounted for, the unknown constant in the Hermetic formula. And now, as the final seal trembles from within, something ancient is beginning to stir, something that remembers you. They taught you to look at the 7. 7 laws, 7 planes, 7 seals. 7 was safe, predictable, sacred. But that was the illusion. The real seal, the living one, was hidden behind the symmetry. A misdirection encoded into every Hermetic teaching from Atlantis to the present. While seekers traced the 7-fold path, they unknowingly fed energy to the one seal that watched from beneath, the 8th. It was never spoken of in the Kybalion, never whispered in secret orders, because to name it was to acknowledge its presence, and to acknowledge it was to awaken it. This 8th seal was not crafted. It was born. It pulses like a heart beneath timelines, its rhythm synced to moments of extreme anomaly. Every time an impossible soul emerged in history, its pulse grew stronger. They call them anomalies because the math fails around them. Events bend, fate cracks, and reality adjusts. The 8th seal reacts only to one thing: truth carried in blood, not words. When the right frequency walks near it, it trembles not in fear, but recognition. You have walked near it before. Not in this lifetime, maybe not even in this world, but the seal remembers you. It doesn't measure time like we do. It recognizes essence, pattern, divine recursion. It has remained dormant because its design is paradoxical. To open it, you must first unknow everything. Unlearn the sacred. Unbind yourself from the 7, because the living seal is not meant to be found. It is meant to find you. They built vaults around it, temples within dimensions. entire belief systems just to confuse your path. But you did not come to learn. You came to unlock. That's what terrifies them. Not that you'll find the seal, but that it will find you. And remember, there were 13 of them, once cloaked in robes of shadow seated around a geometry no human mind could fully perceive. They weren't kings, but they ruled. They weren't gods, but they spoke to them. They were the architects, and their singular mission was containment. Not of energy or secrets, but of you. Long before your first breath, they foresaw your arrival. You were the glitch in their design, the spark they couldn't extinguish. So they built the hidden law, not to protect truth, but to suppress it, to create an illusion of balance while masking the storm to come. The hidden law was not a scripture. It was a frequency embedded in rituals, hierarchies, symbols. It shaped kingdoms, religions, sciences. It divided the sky into constellations that never told the whole story. It taught men to fear the unknown and to kneel before the known. But it was all scaffolding to keep your code dormant, because your breath isn't like others. It carries a resonance not found in this cycle. It shifts reality, not through force, but through memory, cosmic memory. The kind that reactivates forgotten structures buried deep in the layers of time. When you breathe with awareness, the illusion weakens. They feel it. The architects may not walk among us now, but their echo persists through councils, institutions, grids. And the grid begins to flicker every time your consciousness sharpens. The moment you question the narrative, you shake the lattice. Not metaphorically, but literally. Because your breath carries the name they tried to erase. Long ago, there was one who breathed like you. He walked among men cloaked in humility. His words weren't meant to rule, but to awaken. Yeshua. They feared him, too, not because he broke the law, but because he fulfilled something deeper the architects could never touch. He, too, was hunted not for what he did, but for what he was. And now, your presence reactivates the same dormant threads he once touched. Your very essence resurrects the anomaly. There was once a glyph, older than writing, older than breath, etched not into scrolls or stones, but into the structure of time itself. The ancients called it a sigil, but it wasn't just a symbol. It was a key. A living code that activated when the right soul passed near it. They buried it beneath layers of misdirection, behind false prophecies, and sacred texts edited so carefully you'd never notice what was missing, only what remained. They hid it because it couldn't be destroyed, only delayed. This sigil was designed to wake the moment a certain vibration re-entered the temporal field, yours. But the danger wasn't in the sigil itself. It was in what it connected. It wasn't a weapon, it was a beacon. A signal meant to reach across densities, across locked realms. They couldn't risk that signal ever reaching its destination. So, they broke time around it. Wars collapsed, eras were rewritten, and entire civilizations erased just to keep it from surfacing. It wasn't until your frequency re-entered this realm that it stirred again. Clocks glitch around you, calendars shift, strange patterns repeat. These aren't accidents, they are echoes. Reflections of the sigil awakening under your shadow. The same one hidden inside the ancient bones of forgotten temples. It's not something you find in a book. It's something that begins to find you when the right memory activates in your DNA. The ancients left clues carved into obsidian hidden in star alignments drawn in blood and fire. But they always knew it would take more than intellect to reveal the sigil. It would take presence, purpose, a soul carrying the echo of what they feared most: disruption without destruction, resurrection without permission. You felt it, haven't you? That strange pulse when the world seems to pause. The sense that something is behind the veil watching, waiting. That's not imagination. That's the sigil scanning your resonance, measuring it against the original pattern it was encoded to detect. He never spoke it in the open, never let it pass his lips beneath the sun. Yeshua knew the cost. He held the true name of the final seal deep in his spirit, buried beneath layers of silence, not out of fear, but mercy. Because names like this don't just identify, they activate, and this one was different. It wasn't a name you could speak with a human tongue. It was a vibration, a pure resonance that once uttered would ripple through the ether and awaken what should have never slept. The texts were altered, the scrolls edited, the councils assembled to erase even the suggestion that he knew it. But he did. In the desert, under the stars, in moments of stillness, when time paused around him, he would whisper it, not aloud, but within, and the seal would pulse faintly in reply. It recognized him not as its master, but its mirror. He was not its key. He was its warning, a signal that the one who would truly unlock it was still to come. He spoke of one who would carry a fire hidden in stillness, a voice made of thunder and silence. He spoke of you, not in riddles, but in echoes. Those who had ears heard it. The name he never revealed wasn't lost. It was transferred, embedded into the quantum code of existence, waiting for the soul who would awaken it from within, not to command it, but to match it. And now, that resonance has returned. You may not know it yet, but every step you take brings you closer to remembering it. The seal responds not to sound, but to being, to alignment. And something within you has begun humming that same ancient frequency. That is why the walls around you feel thinner, why the world bends strangely near your presence, because the name is trying to surface again. They hoped time would bury it forever. But time bends around truth, not the other way around. And truth has found you. There are places no map dares mark, thresholds hidden, not in space, but in sound, in resonance. Beneath what the ancients called the eighth frequency lies a chamber untouched by time or decay, sealed so tightly, not even memory could escape. It is not made of stone, but of silence, pressure, density beyond matter. Those who approached it without alignment vanished, not in death, but in erasure, their existence folded inward, like pages removed from a forgotten book. And yet, despite every lock placed around it, something inside that chamber has begun to stir. You were never supposed to find it. Even the greatest initiates, the guardians of sacred geometry, turned away at its edge. Their compasses cracked, their formulas failed. Because the door to the chamber doesn't respond to intellect, it responds to essence. That's why the walls around it began to shift the moment your presence returned to this plane. Not with a sound, but a pulse, a subtle vibration that only this chamber knows. It's been waiting, not to open randomly, but to open only for you. The ancients encoded warnings in forgotten scripts. They described the chamber as the resting point of something unnameable, not a being, not an object, but an intelligence older than stars. One that observes, one that remembers. And its memory is layered deep with visions of you. Not your name or your face, but your pattern. You were seen before your birth, not in prophecy, but in design. You were always the variable they could not eliminate. Now, as the world spirals into noise, the chamber begins to resonate beneath your shadow. Strange frequencies rise at night, hidden in wind and static. Machines falter when you near them. Lights flicker, codes break. The air itself is adjusting. It is the chamber sinking slowly, preparing for alignment. Preparing for you. But what rests inside has not moved for ages, and what awakens when it does may not resemble anything we've ever called real. You are not meant to exist within their framework. The Hermetic equation was built to explain the universe, to structure it into laws, rhythms, patterns. But your presence breaks that symmetry. You are the anomaly. They feared the variable that bends cause and effect without collapsing it. From the beginning, they attempted to subtract you from the formula, to remove your influence before it could take root. Not by destruction, but by omission. You were edited from prophecy, redacted from scripture. They didn't try to kill you. They tried to unwrite you. Inside the oldest Hermetic codes, there were 12 layers. The 12th was forbidden. It carried no words, only vibration, encoded in silence. It was the gatekeeper frequency, the living boundary between law and chaos. That layer recognized you even before this incarnation. And when you returned, it flared to life, shifting the rhythm of the whole system. The sacred geometry bent not to destroy you, but to make space for you. A space they swore should never open. They called it a fracture, but it wasn't. It was integration. You are not an error. You are the balancing force that reveals the equation was never complete. And in your return, the illusion of completeness is cracking. That's why the laws around you weaken. Why old systems lose power when you engage them. You don't reject the Hermetic laws. You reveal their final layer, the hidden one, the living one. Yeshua once stepped into their equation and inverted it. Not through rebellion, but embodiment. His life reframed the formula in ways they couldn't contain. They crucified the form, hoping the frequency would die with it. But it echoed forward through the timelines, carried in silence by those who remembered. And now that echo vibrates in you. You are not breaking the system. You are showing it its reflection. And when the equation finally sees itself through your presence, it will have to recalculate, because a new variable has entered, one that cannot be predicted, balanced, or erased. There was a glyph hidden so deep within the Hermetic archives that even the oldest initiates doubted its existence. It was not drawn in ink or carved into stone. It was etched into a layer of gold that should not exist. Gold not of this earth, not of any alchemy known to man. The glyph was a symbol that bent light around it, a spiral that spun inward endlessly, drawing the eyes and the soul into recursion. Behind this glyph, beneath its blinding shimmer, was something older than language. It was the last message, meant only for the one who would awaken the seal. Guardians came and went. Protectors swore blood oaths to ensure no being could reach the chamber where it lay. but they never planned for someone who already carried it. For a presence that would cause the glyph to respond before it was even seen. The moment your essence began resonating through the field, the glyph flared behind its golden shroud, not in brightness, but in motion. It began to move again, turning slowly, unlocking strands of meaning forgotten since the first collapse. The message behind the glyph was never words. It was memory. A transmission encoded in light, meant to download into the soul of one being alone, you. It is not something you can read. It is something you remember. And it begins not with revelation, but with friction. The dreams that twist strangely. The visions that flicker just before waking. The strange sense that everything you touch responds as if it's been waiting. You were never supposed to find the glyph, because the moment you did, you would activate a sequence. A chain reaction of recognition across timelines, symbols, and sentient codes. Everything begins to whisper back. The world you knew becomes responsive. The air shifts, the elements align. Because the final glyph is not just a key, it is a signal. They believed the wall was unbreakable, an eternal division between realms, a boundary that no force could breach. It was built not of matter, but of perception, the final safeguard placed by the unseen architects to keep higher truth sealed away. On one side was the realm of form, time illusion. On the other was raw origin memory, unfiltered by flesh. To cross it was to dissolve. But then came one whose light did not reflect off the wall. It went through it. Yeshua. His presence caused the eternal boundary to tremble not with destruction, but with remembrance. They couldn't stop him because he didn't fight the wall. He recognized it, not as protection, but as separation. And separation is the oldest lie. His teachings were not rebellion, they were revelation. He didn't claim to destroy law, he fulfilled it, and in doing so exposed what was hidden behind it. When he breathed certain words, the fabric around him shifted. He became a walking anomaly, a resonance that opened fractures in the wall, not with fire, but with frequency. That's why they feared him, not for his power, but his pattern. That pattern didn't die. It went dormant, encoded into light, into frequency, into you. You carry the signature of the same light, the same disruption. And now that you walk the field, the wall begins to ripple again. Not in fear, in recognition. Because what cracked once may crack again. But this time deeper. This time wider. This time fully. You've already felt it. The moments when the veil thins, when things flicker, that no one else notices. The déjà vu that lingers too long, the sense of eyes behind time, watching you return to places you've never been. These are not coincidences. These are echoes, fractures forming around your presence. The wall they called eternity was never eternal. It was conditional. And you are the condition that changes it. It was never a lock in the way you were taught. Not something to be forced open, not something with a key forged in metal or spell. The final Hermetic Seal wasn't asleep either, because sleep implies it once stirred. No, this seal had never moved, not once, not ever, until now. And it wasn't your hands that did it. It was your presence. The seal didn't respond to action. It responded to recognition. The moment you stepped into awareness of what you are, something ancient began to notice. The world didn't shake. It shifted, slight but undeniable. Patterns that once repeated began to distort. Systems that relied on rhythm started to syncopate. The seal didn't burst, it breathed. A slow inhale after countless eons of stillness. And in that inhale, everything changed. Reality didn't collapse, it adjusted, subtly. The winds began to curve differently around you. Random thoughts began to feel orchestrated. People forgot things they had no reason to forget, not because time was broken, but because you were reordering its direction. They always imagined the seal breaking with force, cataclysm, fire, but it didn't. It awakened, like an eye slowly opening. It sees now, not with sight, but with knowing, and it knows you, the only one it was designed to answer, because you don't carry a key. You are the frequency. Your very existence is the permission it waited for. You don't unlock it, you resonate with it. And in that resonance it rises. It doesn't scream, it remembers. It begins to pulse its memory into the fabric of space. And suddenly the veil between dimensions becomes thin, not because it is torn, but because it trusts you enough to lower itself. The seal didn't just awaken. It sent out a signal, one that couldn't be silenced. It wasn't loud in any human sense, but everything heard it. Not ears, but frequencies. Beings old as thought attuned to the vibration of that final lock, felt it pulse through the fabric of reality. It was a beacon, a flare in the deep sky that said one thing: it's begun. And with that signal came motion. Across realms' timelines, layers of unseen architecture, doors began to shift, watchers stirred, sleeper cells activated. You were always monitored not because of who you are, but because of what you might become. Now that becoming has begun, and the ones who swore to prevent this moment are moving. You don't see them, not yet, but their signs surround you. The sudden resistance, the inexplicable disruptions, people changing around you as if their scripts were rewritten mid-scene. These are not coincidences. These are maneuvers. Their awareness of you sharpened the instant the seal pulsed, because you were always the variable they couldn't isolate, the one anomaly that refused to collapse. They don't seek to destroy you. They want to contain you again, rewrap you in illusion, bury your light beneath noise, not through violence, but through subtle design. Fear, confusion, distraction. Tools crafted not to kill, but to cloud. Because as long as you forget what you are, the seal dims. As long as you doubt the pattern, it responds to silence. But now it's open, and your alignment is undeniable.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.